So I'm going to go over the problems on this practice exam, and we're only going to be covering or worrying about the first question. So if I turn the page and I look at the first question has got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. So those are the only problems that you need to worry about on this exam, the exam that's happening on Friday. So I'm going to work through the first page, and there are a lot of really, really good questions on this practice exam. And if you can work through this practice exam, you are going to do quite well on the actual chapter test on Friday. So let's go ahead and get started. We're supposed to use or write the slope-intercept form of the equation, and it's given to us as y is equal to mx plus b with the given characteristics. So if I give you an equation with a slope of 2/5 and passes through -3, 1, I'm supposed to write it in the slope-intercept form. Well, one of the things I'm going to notice right off the bat is that I am not given the intercept. So the minute I am not being given the intercept, I need to use point slope. That's an automatic. So my point slope form is going to be y minus y1 is equal to m times the quantity of x minus x1. And from this problem, I'm being given that I have the slope and I have a point. So I'm going to automatically go in and I'm going to label my point x1 and y1, and I know that my m is equal to 2/5. So again, thinking back to my other videos that I've done, once I have my m, or my slope, and a point, x1 and y1, I can go ahead and substitute those into point slope, and then manipulate point slope into the equation of the line of y is equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute y1, x1, and m. And I'm going to get y minus 1 is equal to 2/5 times x and minus a -3. Now I'm going to go ahead and simplify. I've got y minus 1 is equal to 2/5 times x plus 3. So I went ahead and simplified the the minus minus. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to distribute. I'm going to distribute 2/5 by multiplying 2/5 times x and 2/5 times 3. And I get y minus 1 is equal to 2/5 x. Now I'm going to multiply 2/5 times 3, which gives me plus 6/5. I now have to add 1 to both sides because I need to get y all by itself. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I'm going to put that 1 right underneath the 6/5. So I'm going to remember that 1 can be rewritten as a fraction of 5/5, which is going to make it so much easier for me to add it to 6/5. So what I get in return is y is equal to 2/5 x, and I'm going to add 5/5 to 6/5, and I get plus 11/5. And I'm going to leave it just like that. That is an acceptable method to use. Okay, moving on to B. B says, again, I'm going to write the slope-intercept form, meaning I need it in y is equal to mx plus b. And this time I'm given the following characteristics. I'm given a point that passes through 3, 5 and -1, 5. So one of the things I'm going to notice, in order for me to write it in y is equal to mx plus b, I need to calculate the slope. Well, I'm not given the slope, so that means I need to go in and calculate the slope. So that means I'm going to label x1 and y1, x2 and y2, and go ahead and calculate slope. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is equal to 5 minus 5, over negative 1 minus 3. 5 minus 5 is 0, and negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Immediately I see when I have 0 being divided by a negative 4 or any number, my slope is 0. Okay, so now I need to write the equation of the line. So I'm still going to use point slope, and I'm going to use these points of 3 and 5 as my x1, y1, and I'm going to write the following. I'm going to write y minus 5 is equal to 0 times x minus just x minus 3. I was actually looking at the wrong points. So I want you to take a look. If I were to distribute 0 times x and 0 times 3, I get 0. So still got to complete my simplification. How do I do that? I do that by adding 5 to both sides. When I add 5 to both sides, I get that y is equal to 5, and that is my equation of the line. Please remember that y is equal to 5 means I have got a horizontal line right there through, this is 5. Right? So there's my y and x. I always like to reference that to remind you what that means. Alright, so now let's take a look at C. C says we're going to write an equation of the line, and in our equation of the line, we're going to write a line that's parallel. So take a look. The very first thing I'm going to notice is parallel lines have the, what? Same slope. Okay, so now I'm going to look at that equation. Can I figure out the slope from this equation? No, I can't, because it's not in y is equal to mx plus b. So what I need to do is I need to convert 2x minus y equals 7 into y is equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to come over here and do that. I'm going to go 2x minus y is equal to 7. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. When I do that, I get negative y is equal to minus 2x plus 7. I still need to get positive y. So what that means is I'm going to remember that there's a 1 in front of the y, so I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. When I do that, I'm left with y is equal to 2x minus 7. So that is the equation of this format right there. So now what do I get from that equation? I need my slope, because I'm talking about a parallel line. Therefore, my slope is 2. What else do I know in this problem? I know I'm given a point, negative 5 and negative 3. Therefore, I can label that as x1, y1. If I've got a point and I've got my slope, I can use the point slope form. Point slope form up here is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute everything into the point slope. I'm going to write y minus 3 is equal to my slope of 2 times x minus negative 5. And now I'm going to simplify. Y plus 3 is equal to 2 times x plus 5. I'm going to continue now to distribute. So I'm going to distribute the 2 across with the x and the 5, and I'm left with 2x plus 10. That's on the right side, and I have y plus 3 on the left. Now I need to get it into y is equal to mx plus b by subtracting 3 from both sides, which leaves me with y is equal to 2x plus 7. And that is my equation that is parallel to 2x minus y is equal to 7. So now let's look at D. We're supposed to write a line in slope-intercept form, and we are given that we have a line that's perpendicular. So we need to write an equation showing perpendicular, and it passes through -3, -4. So I need to remember that when I'm talking about a perpendicular line, we're talking about the inverse reciprocal. So if I have a slope of -3/2, then my slope of a perpendicular line is going to be the inverse, so it's going to be a positive, and instead of it being 3/2, it's going to be positive 2/3. So I'm going to write that my slope is going to be a positive 2/3. I also know that I have a point that it passes through, -3, -4. So I'm going to mark that as x1 and y1. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to write using the point slope formula point slope formula, and I'm going to write y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And I'm going to go ahead and substitute. So I know that I've got y minus a -4, or minus a -4, is equal to 2/3 times x minus, and my x1 is -3. So I've got my -3. I'm going to go ahead and simplify. I'm going to go y plus 4 is equal to 2/3 times x plus 3. I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute that 2/3 across the parentheses. So I'm going to have y plus 4 is equal to 2/3 x. And now I'm going to multiply 2/3 times 3, which means I've got plus 2. I'm going to go ahead and finish up here by subtracting 4 from both sides, which means I'm going to be left with y is equal to 2/3 x minus 2. And that is my equation of the line that is perpendicular to this equation right there. Moving on, we're going to look at E. In fact, with E, I'm going to tell you please do not do letter E, so just delete that, or you should have deleted it. And so now we're going to look at the next page. And on this next page, we are also going to make a change. You should have made the change earlier in class. This is the y-intercept, not the x-intercept. It's the y. So we're going to write an equation of the line, given that the slope is 1/2 and the y-intercept is 3. So I want you to just remember that I'm looking at y is equal to mx plus b. And what am I given in this problem? I'm actually given the m, and I'm given the b. Therefore, I can easily write y is equal to 1/2 x plus 3. And that's it for F. For G, we're given a slope of -3 and passes through 4, -7. Again, I'm given the m, which is nice. I don't have to calculate it. And I'm given 2 points, so I'm going to label those as x1 and y1. And I'm going to use the point slope form and then convert it to y is equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to say y minus -7, or -7, is equal to -3 times x minus 4. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this to y plus 7 is equal to, and now I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I'm going to get -3x plus 12. I'm going to continue to solve for y by subtracting 7 from both sides, which leaves me with y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. And there is my equation of the line that has a slope of negative 3 and passes through the point of 4, negative 7. For this next one, h, it's asking me to write an equation of the line. And this time, I know that my line is going to be parallel to this line right here, and it passes through 7, 6. So one of the things I'm going to notice that I don't have this in y is equal to mx plus b, which means I need to convert this into y is equal to mx plus b. So what do? I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. When I subtract 2x from both sides, I'm left with negative 5y is equal to negative 2x minus 20. I'm going to continue by dividing everything by negative 5. And when I do that, I'm left with y is equal to a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so I'm left with 2/5 x, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. So now I'm looking for a line that's parallel, therefore my slope has got to be 2/5. So I'm going to write that my m is equal to 2/5. What else do I know? I know that I'm given a point of 7, 6, which means I can label those as x1 and y1. So now I've got my slope, I've got my x1 and y1. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the point slope form to find an equation of the line that's parallel to this one. So I'm going to write y minus 6 is equal to 2/5 times x minus 7. So I'm going to remember that I'm going to distribute. So when I distribute, I've got y minus 6 is equal to 2/5 x and minus 14 over 5. So now I'm going to add 6 to both sides, which means I'm left with y is equal to 2/5 x. And now I need to do some arithmetic. So I want you to think about, how can I change 6 whole into fifths? Well, I can do that by multiplying 6 by 5, which gives me 30/5. So if I divide 30 by 5, I get 6. So I have negative 14 over 5 plus 30 over 5 gives me plus 16 over 5. Therefore, that is my equation of the line. Y is equal to 2/5 x plus 16 over 5, and leave that way. It's totally okay. The last thing that I need to do on this practice test is I need to write an equation of the line that is perpendicular to this line right here and passes through this point. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label this point as x1 and y1. And I'm going to circle my slope, and I know that my slope is 3, and if I want a perpendicular slope, my slope is going to be negative 1/3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my point slope formula using this and this. So I'm going to go y minus 1 is equal to negative 1/3 times x minus a negative 4. I'm going to go ahead and simplify. Got y minus 1 is equal to negative 1/3 x, or 1/3 times x plus 4. Now I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to get y minus 1 is equal to negative 1/3 x minus 4 over 3. So now I'm going to add 1 to both sides. When I add 1 to both sides, I get y is equal to negative 1/3 x. And now you're going to remember that my 1/3, or my 1, can be rewritten as the fraction of 3 over 3, which is good, because I've got a denominator of 3 up here that I need to have, and 3 over 3 is equal to 1. So now I could easily take negative 4/3 and add 3 over 3, which gives me minus 1/3. And that is my final equation on this practice test. Y is equal to negative 1/3 x minus 1/3. So, on the test, you are going to be asked to do 7 different problems of these type. So you're given pieces of information and then writing the equations of the line. You are also going to be given 1 bonus problem. And it's going to be about graphing and figuring out what equations go to which graph, and then graphing a final equation.